The rain had been falling for 3 hours without stopping, and the river on the edge of Millbrook town had swallowed its own banks entirely. Marcus Hayes stood at the edge of the flooded road, his truck parked behind him, headlights cutting through the dark curtain of water. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Also, tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? He was heading home from his late shift at the hardware store, tired in the way only single fathers know, the kind of tired that lives in your bones. His 7-year-old daughter Lily was already asleep at his mother's house, and all he wanted was to hold her hand for a moment before he closed his own eyes. But then he heard it, a voice not screaming, but sharp, a controlled cry of someone who knew they were in danger and refused to panic. He grabbed his flashlight and ran toward the sound, 30 feet into the dark current. Clinging to a half-submerged tree branch was a woman. Her white blazer was soaked through, her hair plastered across her face, and her knuckles were white from holding on. Marcus didn't think. He tied one end of the tow rope from his truck around his waist, knotted the other to the door handle, and walked into the river. The water hit him like a wall of cold iron. He pushed forward anyway. When he reached her, she grabbed his arm with both hands, and he could feel her shaking. "I've got you," he said, and he meant it. They made it back to the bank together, stumbling, gasping. She collapsed onto the wet grass, and he knelt beside her, his hands on his knees, catching his breath. Her name was Diana Reeves. He didn't know that yet. He just saw a person who was alive because he had moved without hesitation. He gave her his jacket, helped her to his truck, and drove her to the hospital in silence, except for the rain. She refused an ambulance. She said she had a conference call in the morning and couldn't be admitted. He almost laughed. At the hospital entrance, she turned to him. Her eyes were dark and steady, and she looked at him like she was filing him somewhere important inside herself. "You didn't even ask my name before you jumped in," she said. He shrugged. "Didn't need to." She nodded slowly. "Thank you, Marcus." He had never told her his name. 3 days later, a courier arrived at the hardware store where Marcus worked and handed him an envelope. Inside was a handwritten note and 2 tickets to a dinner fundraiser hosted by Reeves Capital, one of the largest investment firms in the state. The note said simply, "Bring whoever you like." Diana. He almost threw it away. He didn't belong in those rooms. But his mother told him that courage doesn't stop at the riverbank, and so he went alone in his one good shirt. Diana found him within minutes of his arrival. She was not the trembling woman from the river. She was composed, powerful, the kind of person who controlled the temperature of a room just by entering it. But when she looked at him, something in her face softened. They talked all evening. She told him she had been driving back from a site visit when the road flooded and her car was swept sideways. She had climbed out the window and held on. She had called for help for 40 minutes before he came. He told her about Lily, about his wife who had left when Lily was 2, about how he had rebuilt his life one shift at a time. She listened the way very few powerful people ever do, like nothing else in the room mattered. Weeks passed. She called him once, then twice. She asked if Lily liked books, and when he said yes, she sent a box of children's novels with a small note tucked inside each cover. He read the notes before Lily could. They were kind, specific, thoughtful. Lily decided Diana was the best person she had never met. Then one evening, Diana called and her voice was different, quieter. "Can I ask you something strange?" she said. "Sure," Marcus said. There was a pause. "If I weren't a CEO, if I were just a woman you pulled out of a river, would you still want to know me?" He was quiet for a moment. "Diana," he said gently, "I didn't know what you were when I pulled you out of that river. I just knew you were a person who needed help. That's the only version of you I ever saw first." She didn't speak for a long time after that. When she did, her voice was steady again, but warmer. "I think," she said, "that might be the most honest thing anyone has ever said to me. Some rescues happen in rivers. Others happen slowly, in the quiet spaces between two people who finally decide to be real with each other." Marcus hadn't jumped into that water looking for anything. But kindness has a way of returning to you in forms you never expected. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply stay for someone, with someone as exactly who you are. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Kindness True Stories, where every story reminds us that real humanity still exists in this world. Your support helps us keep sharing these moments of courage and connection. Thank you for being here.